There it is. Reel-to-reel tape recorder. It's a Teac A-2300SX from the late 1970s. Well, this is the back side of the reel-to-reel, and on here we have the reason why this is not already hooked up in the main stereo system. There's a little bit of a problem. There we have the serial number, voltage selector. There is the problem. Guess what? I don't have a freaking power cord that fits into there. Guess I'll have to fabricate something. That's a plug for remote control. Outputs, DIN jack, the inputs, and that's it basically. And here we are a little bit later on, and as you can see, the Teac has made it successfully to my workbench. And here we have the machine with the back panel taken off. This is quite an impressive sight. As you can see, we have 3 massive motors for the reels. Those are direct drive. I have a big motor right there with a fan on it. That's for the capstan. I have a massive flywheel down there, and as you can see, the belt is still good, because the flywheel is doing exactly what I'm doing here with the motor. Motors were made by Teac themselves. Each motor has 2 of these little things. These are oil ports. And I would like to get my hands onto some of the special oil that's required for these motors. I have a transformer. It does say Teac, but it also says Youth Electric, Company Limited. Also says 68, but I don't think this was made in 1968. Electronics are down in there. And got to do the exposure manually because this camera is having a hard time getting a good picture. There is a circuit board mounted upside down. You can see we have a lot of dust inside of here. And up there is more. Upside is looking pretty filthy as well. Have to see if I can clean that all out. First of all, I want to take care of that stupid power jack right there. And here we are a little bit later on. And as you can see, the new standard power jack is in its place. So now I can use one of the billion cables that I already have lying around, and I don't have to pay a ridiculous price to get a replacement cord that fits the original jack. Don't worry, I did not have to modify the chassis or anything like that. It just fits right into there. The cables unfortunately turn out to be a little bit short, especially this one, which is this actually came originally with the jack. This one I cut off of the old jack. It goes to the voltage selector. Kind of managed to get the insulation sleeve back over there. The safety ground is not hooked up. Just decided to leave that unused. I could probably hook it up somewhere, but oh well. Anyway, there is that. The little circuit board off by itself, it was just sticking in there. And I first went ahead and took out these 2 screws because I thought I'd have to take those out and this piece would just stay in there. But turns out that these 2 screw holes are actually the parts that are holding the screws for the power jack in. So this comes off whenever you take out the 2 power jack screws. So a lot of unnecessary trouble, because to one of these screws we have this attached. This is a nice little transistor to heatsink setup with insulation stuff and everything. So that was a nice mess when that fell apart. Actually had to turn the machine upside down and shake it to get all the parts out of there again. That goes back into there, and then it should be ready to go. And oh, and I also took apart the chassis a little bit. I thought if this was a European machine with this setup, it would have been possible to slide out the whole entire chassis and just take it out and do something with it. Well, it turns out you can't do anything like that because all the cables are too short. So this does come out, but the only thing you can get it to do is to hang down, so that's pointless. I now have the chassis right here back in its place. Circuit board is back in its place, and so also the power jack is now properly mounted. And when I moved the chassis back into its place, it turned out that the wiring that I hooked up to the jack down there is actually long enough, so that's not a problem at all. Went ahead and set the voltage to 240 volts. There we have that remote control jack, which it's both remote control and timer control. This is the kind of plug that goes into there. Looks like a tube socket, and it's quite hard to get out, that plug. Well, instead of doing all the cleaning, I decided to first do an actual test, and well, the machine does work. Turn on power, meters come on, and as you can see, when I press, for example, play, yep, we end up with the first problem. It's a typical problem. The grease, or the mechanism that moves the pinch roller up and down, is hard, so you sometimes have to help it a little bit. I do know how to fix that, so I'll be doing that as well. Fast forward works, but rewind works as well. Brakes are working really well. And there it goes, playback. Also has this little lever right there. If you flip that up, it plays back while you're fast forwarding or rewinding the tape. As you can see, flip that down, just stops doing that. 3-motor machine, so it's nice and fast. And the brakes are working really well. And it also sounds good. I have these old vintage Sennheiser headphones hooked up to the unit. It really does sound very, very good. So that's nice. So now I want to go ahead and rewind the tape and take it off of there so that I can go and start fixing that pinch roller problem. Oh well, I guess I'm getting myself into more and more trouble here. I'm actually going through the pain of taking this apart to get the hard grease out of the capstan mechanism, or the pinch roller mechanism actually. As you can see, I've taken out a bunch of stuff, including the flywheel, which I almost messed up because it got stuck half the way, and actually had to kind of readjust this the centerpiece. Luckily there are 2 screws for that, because I kind of pulled that out when I tried pulling the flywheel out. Making tons and tons of photos so that I can remember how it all went back together. But that's where we are standing at the moment. I've just taken out this big solenoid, which is activating the capstan. Problem is, as you can see, it doesn't have screw holes, it just has these cutouts, so kind of see it right there. I actually went ahead and I've drawn around the mounting piece of the solenoid so that I can get that back into the right position. There is the belt. That's still in very good condition. There is the bearing for the capstan with 2 of the 3 screws removed. I hope that doesn't move. But anyway, also got that switch halfway screwed loose. So hopefully I'm now going to be able to pull out this piece right there. This is what moves the capstan around, and I think in there should be the hard grease. Well, the piece that holds the capstan has been removed. It's lying right there. Also got to clean that solenoid up there. That seems to be kind of greasy. Well, part 1 has been done. Cleaned up that post right there. Looks kind of promising. I mean, this is not really the kind of color that good, nice, fresh oil or grease has. So, now I'm gonna go ahead and clean up this thing. Well, that part over there is nice and clean inside and out. The core of the solenoid is nice and clean, ready to be re-lubricated. And that was definitely worthwhile. Look at this. That's what was on there. Nice. Also tried to clean the inside of the solenoid. Not easy to do. I don't want to pull it out all the way, but I think I got it all cleaned up inside of there pretty well too. This required some patience, I can tell you that much. But we got it back together, at least kind of. It's all still de-adjusted, as you can see. The solenoid doesn't line up with my little painting right there. And same as with that thing right there. There you can see it, the line and the part. That's a good way of doing it. Anyway, it's already far enough for me to say that the repair was successful. Just look at how fast this is going. Before, it would always it would require a lot more force, and it would go a lot slower. And that was all because of a little bit of bad old grease, which is now sitting in all of these paper towels that I got to clean out when I'm done here. And here we are, a little bit later on, and as you can see, most of the parts are back in place. Capstan and little part up there have been screwed on and adjusted and everything, so that's all the way it used to be. And still, it's just an incredible difference. Might be able to kind of see the new oil I put into there to replace the old grease. Also the solenoid up there. As you can see, the flywheel is back in its place, and right there you really have to watch out. Because when I put it into there, it was very, very hard to actually get it to go into there. And when I looked at the front shock, there was like a little piece of rubber coming out of this hole and standing out. And of course that was why the wheel wasn't turning freely. Not as freely as it does right now. And so apparently they have a little rubber insert going on inside of there to keep tape dust from getting into the bearing. So you really got to watch out there. I managed to get that thing back in its place, and it's spinning nice and freely now. As you can see, I now have the flywheel and the back bearing part back into their places. Basically, the only things that are now missing are these cable organizing things. And I had to do this twice. The first time, it turned out that I had where the capstan is screwed into the flywheel. When I had to readjust that, I adjusted it too far back. So when I put the backing piece on, it would just get completely stuck and wouldn't turn anymore. I've now readjusted that. Anyway, now I want to go ahead and turn this on and get the motor to spin. Then I want to go and clean the belt off, because that thing is extremely dusty. And then I have to clean the capstan, because having it stick through the bearings, through its bearing right there, Means it now has a lot of oil on there. Then I can put the pinch roller back in its place and go for a first test. And there it is. As you can clearly see, it's still working. And the best thing of all, our capstan and actually our pinch roller problem is fixed. As you can see, that goes really quick. Bam. Just a quick shot how it looks on the inside. Up there is our solenoid. And there it goes. There it goes. There are the rail motors spinning, flywheel spinning. Works really, really well. And then those switches right here do require some contact cleaner, especially the output switches. Those really aren't making very good contact at all. The potentiometers, interestingly enough, are still good, so don't want to touch those, but I'll have to look into cleaning these switches. Not exactly sure how to reach them. I wouldn't like to take this whole entire front panel off, but I guess that's the way it has to be done. And here we are, and as you can see, once again I've taken the machine apart. The view meters are halfway out, and the switches are taken out. Those are all down here. As you can see, it's all sitting on this assembly. And yes, to clean the switches, I've used the evil spray can. Once again, the vicious spray can. So I didn't do it up to some people's standards who like to take the switches all apart and clean every little contact manually. The front part cannot be taken off because it's actually all of these jacks are mounted on there, all of these potentiometers are mounted on there. So I had to kind of dig into there and take out the screws and pull this assembly out towards the bottom. Had to take out the back part of the chassis once again to be able to get it out, get enough space. Down there you can see, you can't really see where the switches are. You can see a bunch of spark killer capacitors and a relay. But anyway, there it is. Now I want to go ahead and put this back together, and hopefully it's going to work then. And here we are a little bit later. And I know this is hard to believe for all the people who love to take switches apart, but I actually got the switches back into a perfectly working condition. So that problem is fixed as well. And just to prove that the capacitors are actually quite good, here is something that I just found out. As you can see, the machine is turned on, the view meters are lit up. Now I want to go ahead and turn the power off. Power is off, view meters are dark as you can see. Now I want to go ahead and press play. Let's see what happens. Did you hear that? The electronics were actually activating and getting ready to play back, to get into the playback mode, and you could also hear some of the solenoids clicking. So there is that much energy left in the machine when you turn it off. And it does take a lot of energy to get those solenoids to do something, so the power supplies are definitely good. Well, here is a bit of an annoying thing. I was, ever since I got this unit, I was wondering about how cheap the wooden side panels looked. I mean, it was obviously fake wood, but it was done so terribly. I now decided to go ahead and investigate that problem a little bit. As I found out, it's just an adhesive plastic foil, and it wasn't Teac who put this on. It was the previous owners, because as you can see, at some point, the original wooden side parts were painted black. How annoying. So anyway, pulled this off in an unobvious corner. When it's standing on the shelf, you won't be able to notice that. This is, by the way, how the machine looks with the side panels taken off. You can see quite nicely how the chassis was designed right there. Revox had a similar setup, by the way. There you can see those wire-wound resistors that I wanted to clean. So now going to do that. Going to clean the resistors, going to clean the motors, going to clean the solenoids, everything that gets warm and could possibly start stinking. Well, I guess you're able to tell that I have now done most of the necessary cleaning in this machine. So now I can actually finally go ahead and put this back together. There was a lot of dust in this machine. I don't know if most of the dust is like coming from the brakes. Like you can see, there are felt pads. I don't know if that dust is just getting rubbed off from those felt pads, or if it really just got into this machine over time. Now here's something I forgot to show you. They actually do give you a printed plan of what can be found on the bottom of the machine. You can see that's the layout. So there is the bias adjustment, for example. I took off this thing because I just wanted to find out, it's usually sitting on here, and I wanted to find out if taking this thing off would give you a bit more clearance to clean the heads. Well, it turns out it doesn't. As you can see, there is this head carrying assembly behind there. Nobody has messed with the head adjustments. As you can see, all of these color spots are still intact. And there it is, all back together, as you can see. I, by the way, decided to do nothing about those side panels for right now. The plastic foil on there, it does look kind of cheap, and it's coming off everywhere, like down there. But it's definitely better than messing up the side panels in some kind of way. So anyway, now it's basically time to bring it back over into my room and then finally get it hooked up in the main stereo system.